Your favorite animated pig isn't as perfect as you think she is.
No need to panic.
In fact, her show is riddled with mistakes everywhere.
Is there something wrong with your eyes?
From characters with body parts that aren't where they belong, to buildings that make absolutely no sense. Once you see these mistakes, you really can't unsee them. But don't go anywhere. There's a mistake at the end of this video that will actually shock your brain. And the reason why will shock you. Make sure you stick to the end of the video to find out why. Here are 30 mistakes in Peppa Pig that you can honestly never unsee. Hit that subscribe button before we get right into it. In the episode Power Cut, where the pig family gets hit with a total blackout, Daddy Pig heads to the door beside the staircase that supposedly leads down to the basement, trying to figure out what's wrong with the electricity. Now, pause right there, because we need to talk. We can clearly see a brick wall with the staircase leading straight down into what would be the basement. The cobwebs practically confirm nobody goes down there often, which honestly, fair enough. That's just what basements are like. But hold on, are we actually looking at a basement here? Because in other episodes, when that exact same door swings open, you don't get a staircase leading to a basement at all. You get a storage room instead. So which is it? A basement or a storage room? Can it secretly be both? And how exactly do the animators explain this one away? Magic? A surprise property renovation nobody told us about? Or are they finally ready to admit that after this many episodes, they occasionally just lose track of their own house designs? Hey, it happens to the best of us. During the hot air balloon episode, pause on the wide sky shots. You'll notice both the sun and the moon hanging up there together in full view. Which, fine, that can genuinely happen in real life. No notes there. But look closer at the moon. It's lit from the completely wrong direction compared to where the sun is actually sitting. Here's a fun science fact. Moonlight is really just reflected sunlight. So the bright glowing side of the moon should always face the sun. In this episode, it doesn't. It's a tiny detail, but once you notice it, you will not be able to stop noticing it every single time that balloon episode pops back up in a rerun. You've been warned. In New Shoes, pause carefully during the bedtime scene. When Mummy Pig first asks Peppa about her shiny new red shoes, George's toy dinosaur is nowhere near his bed. A few seconds later, once George says goodnight, boom, there it is, tucked right next to him like it never left. As Madame Gazelle explains the rules for the big pumpkin contest, keep an eye on two background pumpkins. One on a bookshelf, one on a green cabinet. Moments later, when everyone holds up their entries, both background pumpkins vanish completely, only to casually reappear again shortly after like nothing happened. Elsewhere, an empty red chair sits beside Danny, but in the very next shot, Rebecca is suddenly sitting in it, while that original chair somehow teleports to sit beside Susie instead. And finally, when Pedro collects his prize, his chair flips from orange to light blue in the blink of an eye. This episode apparently doubled as a secret furniture rearranging contest running parallel to the actual pumpkin competition, and nobody bothered mentioning it. While the pig family waits in the kitchen for baby Alexander to arrive, there's a board behind Daddy Pig featuring a couple of drawings, specifically a house and a castle sitting side by side. As Daddy Pig keeps talking and the camera slowly zooms in closer, the castle drawing stays put exactly where it was, but the house drawing has completely vanished from the board despite being right there just moments earlier. It's a subtle background detail, easy to miss unless you're specifically watching that board, but once you spot it, the missing house is genuinely obvious. Somebody on the animation team apparently decided this family only needed half their artwork collection, and the house drawing simply never made it back into the final frame. While Daddy Pig reads a bedtime story to Peppa and George, the moon is clearly visible through the window, with the clock on the wall reading exactly 7 p.m. But just a few frames later, once Daddy Pig wraps up his story, that same moon has completely disappeared from view, despite the clock still showing the exact same time, meaning literally 0 minutes have passed. Then, the moment George wakes up and Daddy Pig leaves the room, the moon reappears again just as suddenly. On top of that, a chair near Daddy Pig shifts noticeably closer to the wall between these same two moments. While driving to their picnic spot, the camera zooms in on Peppa and George sitting in the car. And if you look closely, both of them are completely missing their arms in this particular shot. On top of that, the seat in front of Peppa is shown empty despite Daddy Pig clearly sitting there just moments earlier. Once the family actually arrives and everyone hops out of the car, Daddy Pig is shown wearing a seatbelt as he prepares to jump out. But by the time he actually jumps, that seatbelt has completely disappeared from view. Between two kids temporarily losing their arms and a seatbelt that unbuckled itself off screen, this family road trip had way more going on structurally than anyone in the car seemed to notice. As Daddy Pig's whole family boards the train for his important business trip to test some very serious concrete, everyone settles into their seats. A cat is clearly visible sitting in a seat directly behind the pig family throughout the ride. But once the train actually reaches its destination and everyone disembarks, that exact same cat is shown standing outside the train waiting on the platform, despite supposedly still being seated inside just moments before. Literally, the same character exists both inside and outside the train simultaneously, which is a pretty impressive trick for anyone who isn't secretly capable of cloning themselves. While Susie places a music disc into the time capsule, one of her ears briefly detaches entirely from her head. Meanwhile, when Pedro holds up a coin, one of his ears is noticeably tucked further into his head than the other, giving him a slightly lopsided look. Later, as parents arrive to collect their kids, there are clearly 7 parents and 8 kids present. But once everyone sits down to watch a videotape together, that number shrinks to only 3 parents and 6 kids visible, with several people apparently vanishing between shots. And finally, a videotape sitting inside the player disappears entirely just a few frames later. Between detaching body parts and an entire crowd quietly thinning out, this capsule ceremony had way more going on than just burying some keepsakes. When Mr. Zebra heads out to collect the mail from the postbox, take a close look at a nearby tree. It's not actually touching the ground at all, just floating slightly above it like it's defying gravity entirely. Trees generally need roots, and roots generally need dirt, but this one apparently skipped that step completely. Later in the episode, Susie Sheep is clearly shown arriving at Zoe's house for her birthday party, but once the party actually kicks off, she's nowhere to be found in any of the group shots. Did she leave right after arriving? Or did the animators just lose track of her in the crowd? Either way, between a hovering tree and a ghost guest, this episode had a couple of genuinely strange oversights. Grandma Wolf's dress starts off a clear shade of purple, but just a few moments later, that same dress has shifted to a teal color instead, with zero costume change happening on screen. Meanwhile, as the pig family decides which items to donate, a computer sitting in the background completely disappears the instant Peppa walks past it, replaced instead by an old chair that definitely wasn't there before. Later, once Mummy Pig shows Daddy Pig a book, that computer reappears again, while the mysterious old chair shifts position to the right side of the room. Between one very confused dress and a computer that keeps trading places with random furniture, this charity shop apparently has some serious inventory management issues going on behind the scenes. Stuck in traffic, Mummy Pig reverses the car and takes what appears to be a shortcut route to get around the jam. Except just moments earlier, when the family was first stuck in that exact same traffic jam, there was clearly no road there at all for any kind of shortcut to exist. Then, later, when the family finds themselves stuck in the very same jam again, that mysterious shortcut has vanished completely, as if it only exists on demand whenever convenient. Elsewhere in the episode, as Pedro runs excitedly toward the picnic site, his ear detaches from his head mid-run, joining a long and growing list of characters throughout the show whose ears just cannot seem to stay properly attached. This road network clearly does not follow normal city planning logic. When Susie first shows up at Peppa's house, the front door is clearly wide open to let her in. But just moments later, as the two girls playfully blow raspberries at each other, that same door has somehow shut itself completely without either of them touching it. Meanwhile, a wall near the window starts off completely bare with no decorations at all, until the very next shot when two dinosaur paintings have appeared on it out of absolutely nowhere. And to top things off, when Peppa puts a bandage on George's injury, her arm is visibly not even connected to the rest of her body at the shoulder. Between a self-closing door, spontaneously appearing wall art, and a detached limb, this friendship hangout had some genuinely bizarre physics going on in the background. The school roof is leaking again in this episode, and rain is clearly pouring down all over the classroom. Except if you look up, there's no visible ceiling at all in this shot, and the actual hole causing the leak looks way too small to be producing this much indoor rainfall. Something about this water source doesn't add up at all. Later, while Peppa and George explain their skydiving adventure to Mummy Pig, a fridge in the background has several stickers on it, including clearly labeled A and B stickers. But once the camera zooms onto Mummy Pig, that B sticker has simply vanished from the fridge door. Between mysteriously oversized indoor rainstorms and a sticker that quietly gave up on existing, this episode had a couple of genuinely strange background slips. Playing in their treehouse, Rebecca looks completely normal at first, but for a single split-second frame right before entering, she suddenly got mud smeared across her face from absolutely nowhere. Then, as she actually steps through the treehouse doorway, her ears visibly phase straight through the solid wall instead of passing through the doorway properly. Elsewhere, the branch Peppa is standing on noticeably grows longer the moment Pedro and Danny show up, despite nobody doing any actual building. Later, as Peppa pushes George out of the treehouse, part of his nose clips straight through Rebecca's face, and when Rebecca brings Richard inside, his ears pass clean through the wall too. This treehouse apparently operates on a completely different, much more flexible set of physical laws than the rest of the show. While Peppa, George, and Daddy Pig are busy painting Evie's nursery, you can clearly see the sun shining through the window at the start of the scene. Fair enough, it's daytime. But by the time they finish painting and the room's clearly gone dark outside, that same sun is still sitting in the exact same position in the sky as before. Everyone knows the sun rises in the east and sets in the west over the course of the day. But apparently, in Peppa's world, the sun just parks itself in one spot regardless of how much time has actually passed. Either this universe runs on a permanently broken solar system, or that entire painting session somehow happened in under a minute despite clearly taking hours. The whole pig family is casually hanging out in their living room. And if you take a good look around the room, something's noticeably off. Give up? The TV is completely missing from this scene. Every other episode of the show clearly features a television sitting in its usual spot in this exact room. But in this particular episode, it's just gone, replaced by nothing at all. It's not like the TV was accidentally left off screen either. The whole room is visible, and there's simply an empty space where it should be. Dr. Brown Bear rolls up to playgroup to teach the kids first aid, and Freddy Fox is parked right next to the ambulance's tire like he's guarding it. Except every single time the camera zooms in on Dr. Bear, Freddy and the rest of the kids just vanish into thin air, like they collectively decided the lesson wasn't worth sticking around for. Even a random ball sitting behind Dr. Bear pulls the same disappearing act whenever the camera gets close. Behind Madame Gazelle's desk, a few toys sit quietly. But seconds later, two books have appeared out of absolutely nowhere on that same desk without anyone placing them there. Later in the episode, Mr. Potato gets trapped inside his car, and Super Potato swoops in to save the day, using his impressive super strength to start removing the glass roof. The problem is, Mr. Potato actually climbs out of the car and passes straight through that glass roof before it's even been fully removed, which completely defies basic physical logic regardless of how strong anyone involved happens to be. At this point, it seems like Mr. Potato might secretly be the real superhero of this episode, casually phasing through solid glass like it's nothing while everyone else focuses on the guy in the cape. When Peppa and George arrive at their grandparents' house and get shown to their room, they excitedly drop their suitcases on the floor before immediately jumping straight onto the bed to test its bounciness. Both suitcases are clearly sitting on the floor right where they landed. But just a few seconds later, once the jumping starts in earnest, those same suitcases have completely vanished from the floor without a trace, replaced by nothing at all. Suitcases generally don't unpack themselves, and nobody in the scene is shown moving them anywhere else. This is a pretty simple background continuity slip, but a genuinely funny one since it implies either the luggage got up and left on its own, or somebody very quickly and very quietly tidied an entire room mid-bounce without anyone noticing. Playing two quick clips back to back, the mistake here revolves entirely around Daddy Pig. In the first shot, he's clearly not wearing any backpack at all, but in the very next shot, he's suddenly sitting there with the backpack strapped on, except it has no actual straps visible, just stuck weirdly to his back like glue. Those straps only appear once he awkwardly jumps to the ground, somehow leaping from the back of the car all the way to the front in one impressively athletic move. On top of that, the car door conveniently swings shut entirely on its own, which raises the obvious question. If everyone's just going to jump straight out of the moving vehicle anyway, why bother opening the door in the first place? There you have it. Over 24 mistakes in the Peppa Pig series that you can't unsee now that you know them. Let us know if there are any other mistakes we didn't cover.